I had supposed to have saved her life, and we were supposed to meet, and I'm gonna lose this person. I'm learning that I'm gonna lose this person before I've even met them.
What's going on, guys? I'm Chris, owner of Swamp Rabbit Moving, and I got my co-host Ray Mack with the Damian Hall Group, and today we have a special guest, Matthew Hubbard with Group Therapy. Matthew, how you doing, man?
Hey, I'm doing well, guys. Thanks for having me on.
We're so excited to have you on and hear about your story. So first, just start with a little backstory. Are you from the area?
I'm not. So I was born and raised in Kentucky, about as far west as you can go in the state.
Okay.
You know, Kentucky looks like a fried chicken drumstick, not
it does.
by design. So it's towards the handle of the drumstick.
Nice.
Close to Tennessee, Illinois, Missouri. So
a little bit about your background. Did you go to college for business or anything, or what got you kind of into the restaurant industry, and then more so, what got you into wanting to own a restaurant / entertainment facility?
Yeah, I went to school for art. So I didn't know what I wanted to go to school to, but I took a couple art classes in college and kind of fell in love. Had a teacher really point out that I had some good talent, and he nurtured that, and it was fun for me. It was a small private liberal arts college anyway, so it wasn't like a big university where most people are going for business or pre-med or anything like that. So, and that's actually where kind of my journey started. Part of my story starts in college where I signed up to be on a bone marrow registry. That's like a twist and turn that doesn't really make you understand why I opened up a bar and restaurant. But I signed up to be on a bone registry while I was there. And then later in life, actually went on to donate bone marrow. And through that experience, kind of led me to want to open up my own restaurant called Group Therapy, and through my own like mental health journey as well.
That's awesome. So the idea behind it is just kind of like help others, have a positive experience during a tough time. Essentially, is what it sounds like. Yeah,
I mean, our vision is to inspire play, and our purpose is to really make sure everyone everywhere knows that they're worthy of love and belonging. And we wanted to do that by really creating a space where you could come and have fun with others and have an immersive experience through games and laughter, but then the restaurant and bar component as well, where you could come and gather with your friends.
Absolutely.
Nice.
So you always hear, like, every time you hear somebody open up a restaurant, somebody in the background's, that's the toughest industry to be in. It's just so hard owning a restaurant. What are your thoughts behind that?
Well, luckily we are a restaurant and bar, and margins are tough. Like usually the first year, right? If a restaurant's going to not be successful or fail, it's going to be within that first year. That's what everybody was telling me. But luckily, we have this entertainment component, really similar to let's say Topgolf, where you pay for an experiential entertainment, and margins on that are great.
Yeah.
And that really helps ease the burden of, owning a restaurant and bar. But, luckily we've been successful on that side of the business as well.
Awesome. So that you use the entertainment side to kind of offset the margins on the restaurant side.
Totally.
That's awesome. That's perfect. Where do typical restaurants usually mess up? Is it in the consistency? Is it in the reputation? Is it in the margins? Are they just not charging enough for their product?
I think it's a little bit of all of that. I think the cost of goods have gone up significantly. And if you're not paying attention, your margins, I mean, you could be selling something at a loss if you're not careful. Every order we placed, when we order, mozzarella cheese for our pizzas and chicken wings, which was in a huge shortage during COVID, those prices fluctuate on a week-to-week basis.
Wow.
So if you're not careful and you don't have margin in your food, I mean, you literally, the moment an order gets sent back to the kitchen, or if you're not paying attention to what you're setting your prices at, you could be losing money every time that you sell something.
That's crazy.
Wow. Well, I mean, it's probably tough. Like, I think the biggest issue is like you can't change your menus every time price gets changed on something else too, right? Like that's difficult.
You can't, but we've taken the approach that you can.
Yeah.
We don't have a single physical paper menu in the place.
Smart.
That's awesome.
And that, I think, would have used to frustrate consumers. But now post COVID, I think they understand, and we make it easy for QR code, looking at our menu through a QR code or a QR code ordering from your table. So we've really also, I think what's helped us from a restaurant perspective make money is that we've taken a different approach to a traditional sit down service style restaurant.
Yeah.
Where this kind of blended method between fast casual and maybe fast food, where you just are going up to a window, but you're still provided service after the food is delivered.
Yeah.
So think like maybe Chick-fil-A, but you still have someone coming around triaging your experience.
Absolutely.
To where they're making sure you've got a refill, or they're upselling and getting, extending your purchase into that second and third, maybe a cocktail or alcoholic beverage, which is where, fortunately, there are really good margins.
Absolutely.
So,
and I think like small, like cutting costs small, like in those kinds of ways too, helps a business stay alive too. Like no paper menus. Like you probably, as a restaurant owner, you probably have to cycle through those paper menus every so often or whatever, because somebody spills coffee on them, or they get ripped, or they're just old.
Yeah.
And then also like being able to limit like your serve staff, it allows these people to continue to have the place that they like open, because they're able to like cost effectively make changes to be beneficial to the business.
Well, and it really frees us up. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but have you ever been to a restaurant and they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry," you see something and you're like, "I gotta have that off the menu."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, we're out of such and such."
Absolutely.
That's not a fun experience.
No.
So and it just really kind of taints the guest experience too. So with a click of a button, I can take something off. I could raise the price. It helps us do dynamic pricing. When I got into this, I was like, we're in entertainment, so are movie theaters. Why can't our pricing model for food, drinks, and games and experiences be dynamic to the time of day?
Absolutely.
Weekends are going to fill themselves.
Yes.
I'm not worried about packing the house with people on the weekend.
Yeah.
It's that weekday where is all your excess, where you could really start to make a huge profit.
Absolutely.
So how do you drive guests in on the weekdays? Running specials, happy hours, and doing dynamic pricing on your menus, so you can change them with a click of a button.
That's pretty cool.
To get your guests trained. Hey, if I go during off-peak times, I can save a little bit of money, and then we can go with my friends on the weekend because we're all going to be together, kind of thing.
Are you taking any time to like educate customers on that, or like just spam them with some emails and say, "Hey, this is kind of how we price structure. So if you do come on a Tuesday afternoon, it'll be better for you if you do that"?
Yeah, we do a lot of that through marketing. We capture phone numbers and emails through waivers, and so we really do. And of course, social media. Our social media has been a huge driver to our marketing, but we do a little bit of that education. But luckily, our guests kind of help us spread the word, because they've been able to experience those off-peak times and savings, and they usually tell others, and it kind of helps spread the word.
Cool.
That's awesome. So were you in the restaurant industry before group therapy?
No, not at all.
So you just kind of like dove full force in.
Virgin to the food and beverage industry. It was so funny. My first experience with food and beverage was our grand opening night, and what a way to be hazed into the industry with cleaning up buffalo chicken dip off the wall in the bathroom. So
that's chaos.
Yeah, so just strapped on the gloves, got the mop out, and did the job nobody else wanted to do, because that's what I signed up for.
Absolutely.
Food and beverage is a beast.
It is.
I did not know what I was going to get myself into. Everyone was like, "Wait, you've never worked in food and beverage?" And they'd give me this like
ball game,
they'd give me this weird look. I'm like, "What's that for? It's a piece of cake,
I got this.
Yeah. When I really thought I was opening up an entertainment facility, I didn't even remotely consider like we were going to have, overly drunk people, or, people who were going to complain about the temperature of their chicken.
It's not crunchy enough.
So my background before this, after college, of course, with an art degree, what else are you going to do other than sales? So I went to work at Verizon Wireless, and
nice.
It was really the best time during Verizon, because AT&T had kept on to the rights of the iPhone, if you remember that.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden Verizon got the iPhone 4.
Oh, wow.
And the amount of money that I made through commissions and that fun period of time where people were switching over. And I mean, I just like shooting fish in a barrel, you know.
It's kind of like real estate during COVID.
I think my first iPhone was an iPhone 4 with Verizon. So I think I went from like Android.
Looked like.
It was the rounded edges. It was like the nicer one. Yeah. It wasn't that weird, like small round one. Yeah.
It was such a fun time, and I learned a lot about sales. They actually put me through a retail leadership development program.
That's awesome.
It was designed for people straight out of college. They put you through different positions at Verizon, customer service, sales, assistant management, and then management. And you completed that program ultimately to get placed into a store. But I was living in Athens, Georgia, and having a great time.
Yeah.
I mean, Athens is that UGA go Dogs. You know, hopefully we're going to win back-to-back natties. Got to drop that in there.
Let's not get started with that.
Sorry, that ought to show you I am not from the upstate. That's for sure. As I get kicked off this podcast.
All right, it's time to go.
Bye.
So, yeah, and just having a great time. So I just stuck in sales for another 2 years after that program, and just met a ton of cool people. So funny story, man. I was working with the number one salesperson in all of Verizon.
That's crazy.
And they had a thing called Winner's Circle, where he would go on this like lavish trip, all paid for by the company every year. Like he went to Rome, he went to Whistler, Canada, Hawaii.
That's crazy.
It was so cool. I, of course, didn't get to go on any of those because he stole all my sales. But
he stole all your sales.
but I mean, we were compensated really well, and it was such a fun time to be working there.
Awesome.
Towards the end, I quit because I went through quarter life crisis whenever I went to go donate bone marrow. So to kind of continue that story, back in 2013, I was called saying, "Hey, remember that time you signed up in college and you decided you wanted to be on this bone marrow registry? Well, surprise, there's
times came.
Yeah, there's someone who needs one, and you're a possible match." And so I went for further testing, and they were like, "Hey, you need 10 out of 14 indicators on these blood tests in order to be a match and go on to do that. But you're a 14 out of 14 match, and we need to make sure you understand what it means to be a bone marrow and donor, and if you'll go through with it, we need to set something up." And I'm like, "Oh, is this gonna be like in a couple of years or something?" They're like, "No, we like now."
Like now?
Yeah. Wow. So I went through further testing, and I mean even like a psych eval, because what I didn't realize was the patient on the other side needing a transplant was going to have to take a really big round of chemo, which was going to kind of eliminate their immune system to accept the new bone marrow. And so if you back out, they're left with a 0.0 chance of surviving.
Oh, wow.
So went through that and then donated. For a full year after the donation, because of HIPAA laws and privacy things, we were able to write back and forth. So it was like having a pen pal. And to a degree that confidentiality was kept, you could kind of learn more about who they were.
Yeah.
And we just became really, really close friends. And towards the end of that year, my coordinator and her coordinator, which they were reading our letters to redact anything. We were trying to sneak in like little hints of where we were from or who we were, how to find each other. And they were like, "We've never read letters from a person who matched with the recipient like we've seen ever with the two of you, and we'd actually love to throw a big gala event in Texas. You guys are going to meet on stage for the first time. We're going to show this video that reads a little bit from your letters. There's going to be 500 people, wealthy donors there. It's our annual event down in Texas for the Texas Blood Center, and this is going to get people to donate money to the Be the Match registry." And so I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, I just want to meet this person, like whatever it takes, you know. And is it going to cost me anything? Are you going to fly me down there for free?" And they were like, "Yeah, all expenses paid." I was like, "All right, cool, dope. So I'll sign up." Yeah. And so I fly there, get off the plane. I meet her coordinator for the first time, and they're like, "Hey, a little change of plans. Diana, who was the recipient's name, she's actually not going to be able to go to the gala event. So we're going to meet right now at her house. I go, right now?
Wow.
I was like, okay. And she was like, hey, another thing we need to talk about is that, Diana's on hospice care. And I'm like, oh, okay. Didn't know what hospice care was. I come from a really small family. I'd never been to a funeral as an adult. Definitely did as a kid, but like, you don't know or process what's going on, and never knew anyone with cancer before. And so I'm like, what does that mean? And she's like, well, that means she's at home. She's got a nurse that's taking care of her, making sure she doesn't have any pain or anything like that. And she realized quickly, like, the dots weren't connecting.
You didn't know what
you didn't realize it.
Yeah. And she goes, no, like, Diana, we don't know how long Diana has, but it's probably in the weeks.
Yeah.
And so in an hour car ride, like, I'm having to process, wow, I thought I was going to have this best friend for life.
Yeah.
And we were supposed to have this like meeting, and I had supposed to have saved her life, and we were supposed to meet, and I'm going to lose this person. I'm learning that I'm going to lose this person before I've even met them. But nonetheless, like, I got to actually meet her, and it was, life-changing.
That's
Completely
awesome.
life-changing. Met her family and her friends. We embraced, and she stood back from me, and she said, I'm standing here because of you and what you did.
Wow.
And that kind of impact, those words still echo through my body every day. And it really made me think, wow, I'm of course, Diana passed away 16 days later.
Wow.
And I was flying down to Texas for the first funeral I'd ever been to. And, but it really, really meant to me that now I'm living life for two people, right?
Sure.
And my whole reason for living now is to make sure people know what kind of impact you can have on others through maybe sacrificial giving or serving others, or maybe joining the registry and maybe having an opportunity to do the same thing I did. But it doesn't have to be so grand, right? It can just simply be giving a helping hand to somebody who needs it.
Holding the door open.
Compliment,
Yeah.
smile.
Yeah.
Man,
You never
yeah.
know. Yeah.
Yeah, little things.
Yeah, you never know. It's that one moment that you come across somebody's life that might change them just for that day, that moment.
Yeah.
For sure.
So that kind of like what you're saying, you were in a mid or quarter life crisis and you didn't have a job at that time, and then you meet this person and kind of changed your life in a total, really.
Yeah, and a lot of that didn't connect till later on. This was 2014 now, and I was a mess after that. I was a wreck.
I can only imagine you're probably super pumped to meet this lady, and then like as soon as you get there, you're like, well, you can meet her, but
that might be it.
You ain't got much time.
Yeah, I was I was crying at a drop of a hat. I was so depressed. Like, looking back on it now, I was like, man, that was depression for sure. That was a mental health crisis, and I needed help. And luckily, my family really supported me and was like, hey, you go to counseling,
Yeah.
See if that'll help. And, that going through counseling and meeting my counselor, Harold, who later actually became the name of the mascot of group therapy.
Yeah.
Changed my life forever, really helped me put into perspective that, and I don't know about you guys, I'm a believer personally. And
absolutely.
Diana was spiritually agnostic. And so and when I was there with her, I got an opportunity to share my testimony, and what I didn't realize until later on was, like, sharing my testimony actually allowed her to accept Jesus into her heart before she died. Oh. And it also changed her whole family's life as well. And so, though I didn't save her earthly body, I did save her eternal life.
That's amazing.
And it had impact in others in our family because of that story. And so, but my counselor, Harold, really helped me frame that into perspective, is like,
and see it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, when I was thinking about what did I want to do with my life, it's like, how do I inspire, play, and a little bit of just what I had to experience through counseling into a restaurant, bar, or entertainment facility for others. And that was kind of the idea, really, for group therapy.
That's awesome.
That's how you got the name, I would assume. Yeah. That's awesome.
Do y'all put any faith-based stuff into, like, y'all's core values at group therapy?
We don't.
It's a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
That is a really tough one. And I thought about that. I really take my time to pray personally before meetings, and have invited my leadership team into that if they want.
Yeah.
We also wanted to be an inclusive place for everyone.
Yeah.
And so during those times I pray, I say, hey guys, I'm going to pray. I'm going to also first give a 30-second silence, break of silence. So if you wanted to pray to someone else, or, I'm going to pray to Jesus.
Yeah.
If you want to meditate, and that sort of thing, to kind of give people a safe place that though I'm going to do what I believe, here's an opportunity for you to do what you believe as well. And so that's been really received well. But I didn't want to exclude anyone also because of my faith. But I'm sure about what people believe in what I believe, or people know what I believe.
Yeah, and you're leaving the door open to where they can come and figure that out for themselves if they want to.
Right.
I got you. That's awesome. That's a goal for mine in 2023 is like, how do I really embody my faith, and how do I place it in the business without disrespecting anybody else's beliefs?
Yeah.
It's such a tough and delicate, especially in the restaurant industry. I'm sure Sue Happy there, you got to be very careful probably what you do and how you do it.
Put out there,
because nowadays, it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, and you guys being in our positions in our respective businesses, is we have the opportunity to make an internal impact on a ton of lives.
Absolutely.
Whether it's the people we interact with on the buyer or consumer side, to the people that work with us.
Yeah.
More so the people that we work with, because those are like families. We see them every day.
They're more than family. You see them more than your family do. You know?
Exactly. And so, my goal wasn't ever to shove it down their throat, but they know where I stand, and that conversation, invitation's always there to talk about it, and it's worked. I've seen that happen. Just when people themselves are struggling, maybe they're having a hard time at home. It's also about how you respond to situations where elsewhere they would have just fired you.
Yeah. I think it matters when you really care for somebody as a person instead of just a workforce. You
can't get walked over, but you have to look at it kind of like as an empathetic viewpoint. Like, what do they have going on at home? Like when a guy's showing up late, or a guy's no call, no show, and it's like, well, what has he got going on at home? Like, is he going through a tough time? Did he lose somebody?
Especially the ones that come out of nowhere and start not showing up or something like that. It's like, well, something's up. Let's see if we can at least discuss it with them. And I have it a lot. I've had a few guys that have really dealt with mental health issues, and I've seen that a lot. I had one guy try to kill himself when he came to work the next morning, and I just was like, look, let's talk about this, and how can I help you? And I felt crazy because it's like he was compelled to show up to work that morning.
Yeah.
And in my head, I was like, man, no, let's chat, what can I do to help you? Yeah. And then even and then there's the law side of it. If I didn't say anything or whatever, I could be sued if something did happen to him. And it's like, that's so weird to balance, because you're worried about not being sued, but you also want to be a person and care about this guy. That's a weird dynamic. It's tough to navigate.
It is. And I prayed just hey, if I'm going to step into people's lives in that way, that I'm just going to be guided in what I have said, and hope that it doesn't, kind of come back to bite you. But
I think it helps with your leadership role, though. People see that you have that, that path, and you believe in certain things. I think that helps people, even if they don't believe in that specific thing. They just see that you're driven, and you have an actual a guide, and you have this. Yeah. You're not just kind of willy nilly. I don't know what's going on with my life, and I think that helps with leadership. It's you see somebody that's got a structure to them, you can actually lead or follow them, instead of just what is this guy doing? What is he telling me? I'm not going to follow this guy,
Yeah,
absolutely.